Welcome to Real Talk Wednesday. My name is Erin Callinan, founder of Beneath the Brave, and I'm coming in every week to talk about some unfiltered, raw, authentic conversations that most people shy away from when it comes to mental health. So we're just going to get it out there. A topic that comes up a lot is when people are offering support, but what they're actually doing is fixing. So today's episode is called I Need to Talk. Let's skip the fixing. Here's how to be there. It is really natural for the majority of us to want to fix. If somebody comes to you and they need your help, often we jump in with advice. We jump in with solutions and ideas and stories and experiences. And many times what actually is coming up for people is they just want to be heard. Most people aren't opening up because they want to be fixed. They're opening up because they want somebody to hear them out, to understand what they're going through, to offer validation, and just hold space to listen. I think sometimes people get caught up in, I don't know what to do, I'm not really sure what to say, and so I'm just going to wing it. And there's nothing wrong with winging it, okay? The idea that there's the perfect response is total nonsense. But what happens many times is people dive in and they're talking, and they're never really listening. Maybe they're listening to respond, but they're not really listening to understand. So it's not a bad thing if you're feeling particularly called out right now. If you are a fixer, you are not alone. It doesn't make you a bad friend, a bad partner, a terrible listener. Often what's happening is when we're helping others, we want a sense of control because it helps us ease discomfort. It helps us feel better because we've offered support. We don't want people to struggle or be in distress or go through painful situations. So the need to fix or the want to fix is really, really common. Here's the challenge with that. It also can come across invalidating. So if somebody comes to you, let's say to talk about their anxiety and how it's showing up in their relationship, or about depression and, they're struggling to get through a work day, or they just had a really difficult conversation with a family member or a loved one. They're in an argument or a fight. I mean, when there's crud within the family, that never feels good. But when you step in as the helper and you start offering solutions too soon, or when they haven't really asked for it, it can feel minimizing or invalidating. Maybe you found yourself saying, you know what, you shouldn't feel this way. I just don't understand it, or it doesn't make sense. Maybe you've said, here's what you should do. Okay, I know you're going through this, but you should, or you need to, you have to, you must be really careful when you're using words like that. Okay, don't should on people. Remember that they're the expert in their life. They're the only one in that experience. And so offer support, a listening ear, and maybe options. But when we tell people what they should do, we're kind of stepping into the role of leading their life, which doesn't feel all that good. And sometimes when fixers, so for example, in my life, if there's a fixer in my life, and I'm sharing whatever my experience is, I'm struggling, I'm overwhelmed, I'm burnt out, I'm stressed, I'm tired, you name it. If they jump in with fixes, it can either make me feel like they don't care enough to understand. It can be really frustrating. And it might even sort of put up a wall because they tried to fix me the first time. Not only do I not need fixing, I don't necessarily need solutions. And so I might not go back to that person because of that initial response. And so I encourage you to just resist the urge to just jump right in. If somebody comes to you for support, Huge congratulations. Kudos on you, because they've identified you as a safe, supportive, trustworthy person. And so when they come to you, listen without judgment. Don't get too far ahead of yourself, because you're listening and then you're going to respond. So you're kind of preparing what you're going to say or what you're going to tell them they should do. We want to sidestep the shoulds. If you consider yourself the helper, that does not coincide with the solver. Okay? In my work for years, from being a domestic violence advocate to working in mental health training, I continuously say, and I hold myself accountable to this as well, if you ever find yourself saying you are going to fix, save, heal, or solve, you're doing it wrong. Okay? We can't heal other people. We can't solve all their problems. We can't necessarily save them. Now, you may have assisted them in saving themselves and played a really significant role in that. Phenomenal. But if you can literally just sit in the muck with someone and listen and not feel the urge to kind of clean it up right away, or propose these really like positive, pretty, sparkly, feel good outcomes, just like chill with that. Don't do that. It's not helpful. They're coming to you for a reason. Listen, and you can start off by asking them at the beginning of that conversation, literally, do you want me to just listen, or are you looking for advice? That's a great question, because you're honoring to them, hey, I care. I want to best support you. Help me understand how to do that. And so one of the best things that I would encourage you to do, and I really consistently try and practice this professionally and personally, think about the motto of just shut up and show up. As somebody who is a talker and often has a lot of things to say or share, ideas, thoughts, just stop. Sometimes we just got to shut up and show up. And so when we meet people where they're at, literally what that means is we're going into that conversation to help someone through a work challenge, in a relationship issue. They're dealing with health problems. They just had a crappy day. Meeting them where they're at means just literally sitting with them and not expecting anything. Not expecting them to be in a different place at the end of the conversation, not judging them for maybe steps they should have taken or they didn't take. Meet them where they're at and hold space. Okay? You're not there to fill the space. You're there to just hold space. Let them lead the conversation. You know what else that does is it gives you like an out in a way. And not saying be manipulative in how you listen, but you don't have to come up with all the answers or the solutions. Let them talk, and they can inform you often what they need, what they're going through, and what it's like for them. So when you're holding space, here's some things that you might say. Literally, I'm here for you. Thanks so much for sharing with me. I know that takes a lot of courage. Sometimes people might feel the pressure to like share everything, or especially if they get emotional, they feel nervous and want to rush through it. Tell them, take your time. I'm listening. I'm not going anywhere. And you can tell them that they don't have to explain everything either. I'll tell people, hey, share whatever you're comfortable with. I'm here with you. And then give them some reassurance and permission to like be okay feeling that way. It is okay to feel crappy and upset and angry and apathetic. There's all kinds of feelings, and people are allowed to feel those feelings. They're entitled to them, whether or not you agree with them. So if somebody shares with you, as opposed to trying to rework their emotions and put the bow and pretty them up, you might say something like, that's really tough. I'm so sorry you're going through that. I can absolutely see why you'd feel that way. Or yeah, I would be upset too. It makes sense. You're not alone in this. Those things can be really validating. And I'm assuming that you're good people, okay? We're in this thing together. So I'm going to throw out the assumption that you're a good human. Those are statements that people genuinely believe. Okay? And even though that person in your life, you may think, well, of course they know that I'm here. Tell them. I promise you, you cannot tell them too much. That reassurance can really mean a lot to them, because they may have already made up in their mind who is going to support them, who's not. They're maybe feeling like walking on eggshells. I know I've gone to people to talk about my mental health journey, and when I'm nervous or unsure of their response, I can create a narrative in my head about what they're going to say or do. That does not mean it's based in reality whatsoever. But if I go to them and I start talking and they let me know, hey, I see you. Man, I'm so glad that you're sharing this with me. I know that's not easy. Take your time. I'm just here to listen. I'm here to help. Let me know what I can do, and I can support you in finding professional resources if you want them. So, some specific questions that you can ask, as opposed to saying you should do this, or here's what I did and now you need to do that as well. People might ask for your advice. That's fine. Give them suggestions, give them options. Because advice sometimes comes across like, here's what I did and it worked for me, and so it's going to work for you. Here's some questions so that you can invite them into the conversation and tell you how you can help. So ask things like, what's going on? How are you feeling? And then they might share. What's the hardest part of that? Is there something that's been helpful for you to work through this in the past? What can I do to be helpful? What would feel helpful for you right here in this moment? It does not have to be, let's come up with the next 17 steps for all the things you're going to do. It's, let's break it down. Right here now, or for today, or for this week, what would be helpful for you right now? Find out who their support system is. Like if they told anybody about whatever that struggle is. Who do they trust in their own life? Ask, what does your support system look like? Have you told anybody about this before? Were they helpful? You can also create some follow-up. So if they have the courage and the bravery to come to you and share what they're going through, do the following up if they're not able to. One thing that I know I have struggled with, I'm so much better about it as an adult, but especially when I was younger, is, when times were hard, I would avoid, I disengage, I'm not responding to messages or returning phone calls, I'm canceling plans. And I want to be there. I want to engage. I want to talk, but I just can't. I just can't right now because it feels too hard or too overwhelming. And it can be embarrassing. There can be a little sense of shame being in that dark or difficult place. And it's hard to share that with everybody. And so there's times where I'm like, I still want the text. Don't stop texting. Don't stop calling. Don't stop checking in. Give me the grace that I may not follow through, but don't give up. And so you can ask, hey, can I check in on you later this week? Or just tell them, hey, I'll check in on you on Friday, or let's connect soon, or let's grab coffee, and then follow through with that. Okay, so the goal here is to hear them out, not to come up with all the solutions unless they're an active part of that solution search. One other thing that comes up, I think, with helpers often is having the urge to build rapport, which is great, but that can show up as oversharing or comparing stories. So if somebody comes to you and you've had a similar experience, that is so powerful. if you've both lost a spouse, if you've both survived cancer, if you've both lost a job, or it can be a positive thing, right? If you've both just recently got married or gave birth or whatever it may be, even positive change can be tough. And so, as a way to build rapport and kind of say, hey, I got you, I understand what that's like, at the end of the day, you don't. Okay, hard truth. Hard truth. No matter if you're wearing the same shoe size and the same color, the same brand, you are never really walking in somebody else's shoes. And so it's kind of this teeter-totter of, yes, when you're open and authentic and vulnerable with them, typically most people appreciate that. And it gives them permission to be open with you. But what we don't want to do, and I'm encouraging you to really think about this, we don't want to shift that conversation and now we've made it about us. And the next 20 minutes, we're going down the whole story of all the things that happened to us. That feels dismissive. That can feel hurtful. That can also put them on the defense like, you don't understand. And our stories are not the same at all. And so a guide that I've used throughout my life and my career, yes, I can talk about unique to me. I don't speak for everybody with bipolar disorder, but I can talk about what it's like to live with a mental illness. I can talk about being in recovery from an eating disorder. I can talk about self-harm. I can talk about some of those ugly things that I've been through, but I can also talk about treatment and recovery and building relationships. And so usually I will use this guide to help me, if it's appropriate to kind of share, if it will provide the person who's asking me for help, if it will give them hope, it will encourage them to get help. Okay, those are two really important things. And so in my disclosure, if it will help them feel less alone and it'll give them a sense of hope, things can get better. And the last one is healing. To let them know that healing is possible. People are navigating healing journeys in their life all the time. So hope, help, and healing. Okay, and I can say something like, man, I remember right after I was diagnosed, it took a while to find sort of the right combination of medication. Or I remember how tough it was when I first disclosed to a group of friends about my mental illness. And then we can move on. So think about some of these things in terms of how you can listen without the intention of responding, how you can really show them with your eyes, your ears, your body language, that you're supporting them because you're in the moment. You're not planning your grocery list or thinking about what you're doing tomorrow. Validate them, provide reassurance, ask questions. What's been helpful in the past? What can I do to support you? What does your support system look like? Would you like me to listen, or would you like me to offer solutions or support, or do you want to talk through options? Have you talked to a therapist about this before? And you can check in on them anytime. It doesn't have to be around their mental health. Show up as human for other humans. And thank them. If they've got the courage, they had the strength, and they opened up to you, a huge congratulations, and thank them for that. Provide them that reassurance of what your role in their life is. Unless you're a therapist or a clinician or a peer recovery specialist, don't try and wear all the hats. There's professionals for that. But you can let them know, hey, I'm here to support you. I'm here to listen. There's also people who can offer help. And I can support you in finding those folks if you want. At the end of the day, people want to be seen. People want to be heard. They don't want to be fixed. Join me next Wednesday, where we have some more real talk about the issues that most people avoid when it comes to mental health. I'll see you next week.